everybody, welcome back for another video. So I have been very excited about putting together like a mid-year compilation video, kind of recapping everything I've read this year. So I had decided to go ahead and do the mid-year freakout template because it's a great collection of questions. And then Colin from Colin's Corner did tag me, and so now I gotta do it, right? So I did spend way too long agonizing over all of my answers because it's hard for me to make a decision. And it's a good type of difficult though, because what that means is I've read so many good books this year that I am struggling to nail down question one. Question one is literally, what is the best book you've read so far? So I'm gonna go ahead and get into it, but it has been difficult. So like I said, the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far? And it was tricky for me because there's not a clear winner. And that might seem like a little bit of a red flag because I love having books that just like sweep me off my feet and go, okay, no matter what happens for the rest of the year, I know nothing can beat that. Like everyone loves having that experience. And I don't know that I have had that experience this year, but it's not a bad thing. Like I have read several 5-star reads. I've read several books that I can't stop thinking about. I've read a few things that have the potential to be future favorites, but not one clear-cut winner. I did pick one for the sake of this video though. I decided on The Lord of Emperors, or actually it's just Lord of Emperors, by Guy Gavriel Kay. And this is book 2 in the duology, the Sarantine Mosaic. And I really, really enjoyed this. I read this back in April with a group, and man, this book is so good, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since I read it. And that's really what sealed its position in this first question, because not a day goes by that I don't really think about the effect that this book, and rather this series, had on me. It's a strange favorite though, because it's not something I would recommend to just anybody. And I have a hard time even explaining what it is about it that made me fall in love with it. But for anyone who's interested in checking out this duology, let me just tell you, first of all, it's only a duology. So that's like really intriguing because, you know, why not, right? But neither of them are short or light reads though. They are kind of all consuming. When you read them, you kind of need to focus on them, in my opinion. And I do think they should be treated as one book. It seems like most people who read them straight through and back to back have a better experience rather than people who divide them up like one a month or like read it slowly with other things woven in between. I do those things myself from time to time, but I do think, at least for me, that distracting from this duology at all probably would have taken away from my experience. That being said, about half of the first book, I was still pretty mixed on it. I wasn't sure if it was going to be for me, if it was going to land. But by the time I got to the second book and then read through the second book, I was just pretty blown away. Like, I feel like this story is a masterpiece. And what makes it so good is how intricately all the details are woven together. It really is a great example of a butterfly effect type story where one event happens in the beginning and it literally changes the course of history. And the way that Guy Gavriel Kay writes, the way he strings together a sentence, and the way he makes things so monumental come across as so subtle, it's just amazing. I think this duology has some of the best political maneuvering that I've ever read, and I love that in my books. So it was a strange experience, but by the time I was done, like my jaw was on the floor. I absolutely loved it. And I'm not joking that I haven't stopped thinking about it. I think it's some sort of a masterpiece and I had a great time with it. So I'm going to go ahead and call it, so far, 6 months into 2023, I think Lord of Emperors is the best book I've read so far. The next question is, what is the best sequel you have read? So I took it literally in order to kind of like trim down my options, and I picked the best book 2, like direct sequel that I've read all year. And I am going to go with Of Darkness and Light by Ryan Cahill, which is book 2 of The Bound and the Broken. I'm really, really digging this series. So if you are still unfamiliar, I read The Fall first, which is a short novella and a prequel. And then I read the first novel, which is called Of Blood and Fire. And I really, really enjoyed it. Like, it was enough that I was hooked in. I liked his writing style. I loved how in your face all of the fantasy elements and the magic was. And I really, really enjoyed all the characters that were being introduced and the rich world that was being built around them. Like, I was hooked. I was in. But it wasn't until I got to book 2, the sequel of Darkness and Light, that I was just like, okay, like, this is something really special. This is a series that has the potential to be like an all-time favorite fantasy series for me. And like, I'm just all in on this series and Ryan Cahill as an author now. So definitely very, very excited to continue on to book 3 as soon as possible, because this sequel really raised the bar and made me like super excited about where this is going. The next question is asking about new books that were released this year that I haven't got around to reading yet. So I have 2 that I'm going to talk about, and both of them I've only put off reading because I'm waiting on the audio. Now, I do know how to read with my eyes, but these in particular, I'm waiting because I'm excited for the audio. So the first one is Tower of Silence by Larry Correia, and this is book 4 in the saga of the Forgotten Warrior. This is a series that I have enjoyed very, very much, and I think that it is underread in general by the fantasy community and needs more attention. But book 4 came out back in February, I think, and Tim Gerard Reynolds does the audio narration for this series. He's a favorite of mine, and I really decided to hold out so I could continue my experience with getting this series via the wonderful Tim Gerard Reynolds. So I've heard that the book is really, really good, so I'm kind of kicking myself because I'm dying to get to the next installment. But at the same time, I know it'll be worth the wait because Tim Gerard Reynolds never lets me down. The next one is by Philip Chase, and it's The Way of Edan. And this is a book that is getting a ton of buzz in the fantasy community because, first of all, we love Philip. Like, who doesn't love Philip? But Philip knows his fantasy, and he knows about literature. He knows what's good and what's not. I trust him when it comes to his opinions about books and his videos, but I also trust him to write a book. And this is something that has been a passion project for him for a long time, and he has put his heart and soul into this, and I have every belief that it will be excellent, but I am waiting on the audio. Again, not just because I prefer to read books via audio, but because our friend Alan from the Library of Alexandria is going to be doing that audio narration. I'm holding out because I'm so excited to experience it that way, and I want to support Philip, but I also want to support Alan. So I got my book, I'm ready to do it immersively, but I'm very, very excited about the audio experience with Alan as the narrator. The next question is, what is a new release that's going to come out later this year that I'm most excited about? And there are a few on my list that have my attention, but without a doubt, the book that I'm most excited to read in the second half of 2023 is Lightbringer by Pierce Brown. I've been a fan of the Red Rising world and that series for quite a while now, but only recently did I catch completely up with those latter 2 books 4 and 5, Iron Gold and Dark Age. And man, the way Dark Age ended, I am just waiting on pins and needles for Lightbringer. So I have no regrets over taking so long to read those final 2 books, because now I'm set up and ready for the new release, and I don't have to wait for years like a lot of the hardcore fans have. So I think I timed it just right because the anticipation is there, and I am just dying to see what he does next. The next question is a bummer. Biggest disappointment. Now, I have had a few books that just did not meet my expectations. Like, maybe my expectations were off, maybe my mood wasn't right, but there have been a few that were just a miss for me this year. But the one I'm going to talk about is Lancelot by Giles Christian. And this is an odd one because I don't think it is a bad book, but I think my expectations were just too high for it. So my first experience with Giles Christian was reading a short story called Hellmouth, and it blew me away. I thought it was amazing. In fact, if you haven't read Hellmouth, just stop what you're doing right now. Like, pause my video, but come back, right? But it's like 65 pages long, and it was awesome. It's like a horror slash fantasy subgenre that I didn't even know I needed until I got a little taste of it. And as soon as I read that, I was like, I will read anything this guy wrote. And then I found that he had this series. It's a book called Lancelot and a book called Camelot. And I was hot off the heels of Warlord Chronicles, and Arthurian legend in general was very, very interesting to me. I had watched some documentaries, and I was like reading stuff online, and I was very into Arthurian legend stuff. So I thought, how could this miss? And it was just kind of a miss. And I can't tell if the book just isn't very good, or if my expectations were just like sky high, and it wasn't really a fair way to go into it. But for the most part, I felt like the writing was really good. I love the way he writes. I was never let down or disappointed by the writing style, but I felt like the story just kind of drug in places that it didn't need to drag, and it felt like a 3-star story with 5-star moments. Like, it had moments that made me go, do I love this? Like, do I love this? And then moments where I was just like, ugh, come on. And we all know that I like a slow burn. So if even I was saying that, like, I think there were some pacing issues in the book. So I don't know. Have you read it? Is it just me? Was it my expectations being like unrealistic? Or is it just kind of a, like I said, like a 3-star book with 5-star moments? Really strange. Either way, disappointing. I don't know if I'll go back and read Camelot, but I'll never say never, because like I said, the bones of it were there. I enjoyed the writing style. Just the pacing kind of just left me frustrated. This is always a fun one. The next question is biggest surprise. And my biggest surprise, hands down, was Wistful Ascending. I was surprised only because I didn't know I would like this so much, and I think I love it. So this is, like I said, by J.C.M. Byrne, and it is a superhero sci-fi story that just absolutely caught me by surprise, and I haven't stopped loving it or talking about it ever since. This is a story about Rohan, who is essentially a retired superhero who is living on a space station named Wistful, and he is just trying to live a quiet life and mind his own business, but being a badass that has a reputation throughout the galaxy of just being like a stone cold superhero, of course, like, his past is going to catch up with him. But I just loved this book. I thought it was exactly what I needed as a palate cleanser, but still managed to be good. You know those books that like, oh, it's fun, it's funny, it's light, but it's okay. This was fun, and it was funny, and it was light, but by the end of it, I was like, dang, I think this is actually really good, too. So please check this one out. I am continuing with the series. I'm reading book 2 right now, and I am continuing to love it. So pick it up. It might be for you, too. For a new favorite author, I am going to go ahead and do a repeat, and I'm going to go with Ryan Cahill. This right here is the little novella. It is called The Fall, and you have no reason not to check this out. It is available for free on his website via like a digital download, and it is, let's see here, about 80 pages long. This is a great way to just test it out and see what you think about the setting, the world, his writing style, and it's going to kind of show you where this all came from and the potential of where the story could go. Because if you start with book 1, which is a great starting point, it starts out slow, of course. It's building towards something. This starts out like balls to the wall, straight up, nuts. So if you're a fan of action and you want a little sample of what you're going to get throughout The Bound and the Broken, start here. There's no risk, and it's really good. Next up is a new fictional book crush that I picked up in the first half of 2023. And I almost went with Rohan from Wistful Ascending because I do have a crush on Rohan. I like the fact that he is middle-aged, he knows what he wants, he's not here to play games, he has a sense of humor, and he's like super good looking. I almost went that route, but I had to go with my guy, Papa Jove from Thrice by Andrew D. Meredith. Rather, he is from the Needle and Leaf series because he's also in book 2. And the reason I have a crush on Papa Jove is he is my favorite type of father figure. He is father by choice. He is gruff around the edges. He is mysterious. He definitely is a badass and has a sordid past. And I like the way that mystery is being built and questions are being asked. And now I'm like, who is Papa Jove? I got to know everything about him. but the way he treats Leaf with this tenderness and protectiveness and is like gruff and quiet, but also sweet and tender. Like, I love this type of character in general, and it's an easy button for me anytime it's in a book, but I think in the Needle and Leaf series, Papa Jove is executed extremely well, and I have a huge crush on him. Question number 9 is favorite new character. And the funny thing is it came to my mind immediately, and I knew who I was going to pick. And then I went through a list because I always have to overcomplicate things. And I was like, I've met so many great new characters. I could easily pick some very serious ones. Like, there are characters from all of these books that will forever like be a part of my DNA because they've impacted me so much. I love a well-written character. But the person, or rather character that came to my mind instantly, and I have to go with it, is Princess Donut from Dungeon Crawler Carl. So I don't have physical books of this. I'm doing it all on audio. But I am reading the lit RPG series, Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it is so fun. It's hilarious. And the character, who is a Persian cat named Princess Donut, is easily my favorite character I've met all year. Absolutely sassy and hilarious and smart, but just a kitty cat at the same time. I know, you're watching this right now and you're going, what? Your favorite character is a sassy Persian cat? I can't help it. She won me over, and I'm so hooked on this series. And a good deal of the reason I'm so hooked is because of this character, Princess Donut. So funny. Next up is a book that made you cry. And for me, I chose The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I picked this up back in January because, first of all, I hadn't read it yet. And I'd always wanted to because I'm a fan of the movie and it was filmed in my hometown. So I have kind of a personal connection to it. But also my friend Tori over at Tori Talks named this one of her books of the year for 2022. So I had to check it out. The timing was right. I was looking for something a little different and looking for something short. So why not? And it checked all my boxes, and I ended up absolutely loving it. And the reason is because, well, the movie is good, but the book is better. It gives you more insight into what these boys' motivations were, where they came from, and just what made their group of friends so special. And I don't want to spoil anything about the story, but there are several moments in this book that just broke my heart and made me sad. And then there were moments that I cried because I was proud and I was happy. And I like when a book can make me cry, but not just because it breaks my heart, but because it takes me through real human emotions. And I'm still blown away that this book was written by a 16-year-old girl. Absolutely amazing. But I felt like I really knew these characters, and when they lost, I felt like I lost. And when they had moments of victory, when I felt like they won, I was proud of them. So it just brought out all of the mama bear, big sister emotions in me, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, enough being sad. The next question is a book that made you happy. So similar to with The Outsiders, this is a book that is widely considered to be a classic, a favorite of so many, but I had never read it. I had seen the movie. I've seen the play. I'm very aware of the story just throughout pop culture. It's famous. I know who the characters are, but I had never read it. To Kill a Mockingbird. It made me so happy. It made me happy because I was nervous that it wouldn't live up to the hype. This is a book that is definitely not overhyped. It's amazing. It has everything I want in a book. And it didn't let me down. It just exceeded my expectations, and I hope I continue to read it for the rest of my life, and I hope my kids read it. It's just amazing. It has such good characters. It is a snapshot of a time in history that is so important. And I don't know, just everything about the story just felt like a warm hug, and I loved it. The next question is about the most beautiful book I have added to my collection. And this one was a gift from a friend, the Poison Dwarf. He sent me this beautiful anniversary edition of The Godfather. And I'll take a second just to show you. So it's this matte white dust jacket with the gold lettering. Very beautiful, but it's special on the inside. So it does have sprayed edges, which I never get over sprayed edges. I think they're so amazing. And in the inside, though, first of all, look at this spine. So good. Inside, oh, horse head. Oh, and It's super nice. I'm so happy to get this. I'm very, very happy to add it to my collection. And just aesthetically, I love the way it looks. And coincidentally, as he sent this to me, I had just started reading it. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe he knew that. I don't know. But either way, I had started reading that, and it's definitely going to be a favorite. In fact, I finished it yesterday, and I considered putting it on that #1 question, book of the year. I really, really liked The Godfather. And the last question on this list is, what is a book that you are super excited to get to before the end of the year? Now, I do have an entire list of standalones that I made at the beginning of the year. Those are my goals. I'm still planning to work my way through that, even though I feel like I'm super behind on that. I also have some series I'm really looking forward to starting this fall. One being Outlander, very excited for that. And also the Matthew Corbett series, very excited for that. But for the purpose of this video, I picked 2 books. One that has been on my radar for a long time that I'm just gotta read. In fact, like every month, I'm like, this is the month, I'm gonna read it. But then I always put it off for one reason or the other. And then the other book is one that is brand new to my radar, like didn't see it coming, but now because of the hype and from the feedback I'm getting from trusted friends and stuff, I gotta read it. So the first one, new to the radar, is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. Like I said, this really wasn't on my radar as a new release this year. It's mostly because I'm not super familiar with Mark Lawrence. And then most of my friends are kind of like mixed on whether or not they jive with Mark Lawrence. I have a lot of Mark Lawrence fans as friends, and I have some friends who are just like, he's not for me. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. Wasn't really on the radar, but I've had several people tell me that I, in particular, will love this book. So I am buzzing for it. I'm very, very excited to get to it. And the other one, if I'm being honest, I hope I'm not putting too much pressure on the book or setting my expectations too high, because this is one that I really anticipate being a book of the year contender for me, and it is Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I have been so jazzed to read this for years now. I don't know why I put it off so long. And it's funny, actually, because everyone I know who reads this for the first time says the same thing. I don't know why I put it off for so long. I was going to read it this month, but I just keep having all these things that pop up. And I've got a lot of stuff going on in my life. And I just want to make sure when I read it, I am doing the book any favors I can by starting it at a time that my head is ready for it. So I'm definitely going to read it this year. I don't know when, but I'm very, very excited for it. And I think it's going to be a great fit for me, and I fully expect on loving it. And that's it, guys. That's everything on the list. Thank you so much for watching. This year has been an odd one. I've had some high highs. I've had some low lows. It's been stressful, but it's been fun. And reading wise, it's kind of been all over the place. I look back through my Goodreads to make this list, and I just smiled. Like, I have read so many good books this year, and I fully plan to keep the trend going and to make this the best reading year ever. So thank you guys for watching, and I will hopefully talk to you guys soon.